Hello. Those of you who know me know that I do quite a bit of training about child bereavement, among other things. I thought it would be useful, given that we are heading into a time where, a lot of our young people, a lot of our children are going to be dealing with bereavement and loss, to have a think about that from a child's point of view. I think one of the things to say first is that we don't talk a lot about death. It's not the most fun subject, is it? But we perhaps need to do that a bit more at the moment, because it's all over the news, all over the radio, and children and young people are not oblivious. They may feel that they can't talk about it because we don't talk about it much, but they won't be immune to the fact that people are dying in large numbers at the moment, and sometimes it is very close to home. And it is probably only a matter of time before they will personally know somebody who's died. So now I think is the time that we need to be thinking about this and addressing this. Children may in the past have lost a close relative or a friend, and it will have been an experience that will have changed them. If they haven't lost a person, they may well have lost a pet, and although it's very sad when that happens, it's actually a really useful learning experience for a child. And apart from anything else, it gives us an opportunity to have those conversations about what happens when you die. And of course, we may believe that we know some answers about that, but none of us really know for sure because we don't get to come back. And so maybe we avoid the subject because we don't know the answers. But I think it's really important that we have conversations with children in which we explore possible answers. One of the reasons for that is, if you think about in the old days when we lived in quite a religious society, those questions and some corresponding answers were readily available. People discussed ideas and beliefs, or if they didn't discuss them, they assumed what they thought was true. So now in a secular society, we don't really have any answers laid out for us there, and we don't have those conversations. Perhaps you live in a family where there is a faith and those things are discussed, and I think that is not uncommon, but I don't think it's the majority of people these days. And so what we're left with is a bit of a void, and into that void comes a lot of fantasy stuff that children are open to. So if you think about what death is from a child's point of view, they'll have been exposed to ghost stories, they'll have been exposed to ideas of zombies or some kind of hauntings. If we think about Halloween, even young children will be aware of this imagery and this idea of something scary. And if that is the only idea of an afterlife that they have, that can be really frightening. So, for example, I remember working with a child whose grandparent had said how comforting they found it, that they felt the child's father's spirit around. And for the grandmother, it was wonderful, and it was comforting and soothing and all of those things. But for the child who had no sort of religious upbringing, this was really frightening because he was expecting to see a ghost at any minute. And so we need to sometimes just check ourselves, check what we think about death, and be explicit about discussing it with children. If you think about what death means, there's no idea of finality. If you look at characters dying, for example, in video games, it's game over, but then a few minutes later they're back, you can start again. Similarly in cartoons, awful things happen to people, characters in cartoons, but there's always another episode. So this idea of finality it is often way beyond a child's perception. And I think that one of the things that happens, particularly as children get a little bit older, is this recognition that we all die, recognition of our own mortality as we're growing up, but also everybody around us. So once we become aware of death, if we don't address these fears and these anxieties directly, we can end up feeling extremely, or children can end up feeling extremely vulnerable. So it's really, really important that with all this negative talk about death and dying, that there's plenty of direct reassurance. We're doing everything we can to be safe, and we're going to be all right, and really acknowledging their anxiety and their fears and discussing with them that, yeah, we may not know what's going to happen, but the thing is that if they can see that you can manage it, then that's going to give them a sense of reassurance and a sense of security, and that's really important. So I hope that's been helpful and thought-provoking. If you would like to hear a little bit more about how children understand death and how we can help them, then please watch the other videos that I've made.